This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today I'm going to go off one of my conversations that I had this week with one of the clients, but it's something that I had to learn for myself, and something that I probably discussed at some point throughout the 200 odd podcasts that I've done here, and that is a very simple concept of the first person to get angry loses. Now, this is looking at a situation, it's like, it doesn't mean that anger is bad, and I want to really underline that. It's just like, I'm not saying that anger is necessarily bad. I think it's actually, both anger and aggression are very normal. It's just, it goes so simply under the understanding of like, do you have anger or does anger have you? Do you have aggression or does aggression have you? I think this is a significantly smarter, I suppose, approach to something that is very normal, natural, and human. And I say this because it's normal for us every single day to experience anger, and it's even possible for us to be calm whilst being angry. And this is a big difference between basically experiencing anger and then displaying it. And a lot of the time, I mean, I heavily grew up with difficulties around this well into my 20s, because I would feel anger and then I would just express it as the emotion, right? And this is something that I had to really learn and really understand the word or the phrase rather of emotional intelligence. It's something like my not out, intelligence around my own emotions, and whether they're running me or if I'm utilizing them for use and purpose, or I'm simply just reactioning at old behaviors and patterns that A, no longer serve me, but B, used to serve me back in the day, probably for survival or whatnot as well. And so what I later learned was to not like put down the fact that I'm angry again or something along those lines, but simply an easy way would be to question like, well, okay, what am I actually angry about? Because the thing here is like, I'm angry about Fred. I'm just making Fred up. Not if there's an actual Fred out there, I'm not making you up. But if I'm angry at Fred, I can't be angry at Fred. I'm angry about my experience of Fred, right? And when I really grasp that, it's like, I can't be angry at Fred as a whole. It's like, it's my experience of Fred that I'm responding in anger. So what's that about? And when I could question that, I could start to, even if I'm in anger, I can still start to question and look at it for okay, well, it's because he did this. It's like, well, what does that mean to me? And as frustrating as that behavior, that questioning, the inquiry was, it was significantly more resourceful and useful to look at what was the things that I could hold within my responsibility, rather than simply just blaming Fred for my shitty behavior that I was kind of shitty about. And so in doing so, as I started to go through more difficult times, and that's the thing, is that maybe you've noticed this, that when you start to work on something, the universe starts to offer you opportunities to challenge it. So you're like, okay, this is a great idea. I'm going to start working on my display of anger. And when it arises, when I have opportunities where I would usually get angry, I'm going to see my anger. I'm going to stay calm and observe my anger and see what it's pointing at, and then make decisions based off that space rather than based in my anger and reacting emotionally. And then like the next day, someone cuts you off, someone, scratches your car and you don't know who it is, like any variation of any of that sort of stuff. And it's just this opportunity for you to actually work on that. And it's like, why is the universe testing me? It's like, the universe isn't fucking it's got 7 billion people, not including animals, to take care of. It's not testing you. It's simply a thing that occurred. Usually you would get angry at it and not think about it. But now that you're thinking about it, you think you're being tested. It's like you've gone 30 years not thinking about this. But now, because it's front of mind and saying you want to potentially work on, you want to practice your practices, here is a perfect opportunity to begin to embody the things that you said you know, the things that you say that you know to do or you've thought of before. It's like, that's great. And I said this to someone today. They're like, yeah, I know that. I'm like, well, stop fucking knowing and doing and start doing it. Like, heaps of people know to do stuff they don't do. It's not enough to know. It's not enough to logically know about anger and staying calm and understand that the first person to get angry loses. They don't just lose whatever the battle may be. They're going to lose themselves in the process, and they're going to become anger and lose their self, which means they lose control of making decisions and responsibility in that situation. This is the whole construct of that sentence, of looking at it and going, the first person to become angry loses, right? So it's seeing all of that and seeing all of it for this power of like, okay, I can experience anger yet still have the ability to make decisions. And it's just like, your fucking car got scratched, so what? And things aren't gone my way, so what? How do you know that? How do you not know that, you're not meant to have your car, but your car got scratched and then you ended up having to get it fixed, and the person that came to fix it came to your business and goes, actually, you know what? You deal in aircons. I actually need an aircon, a new aircon put in. Oh, and by the way, my mate just opened up a business. He's looking for aircon as well. Like, can you give him a quote? Like, we don't know that these are the things that could potentially come. And then that person, you're like, oh, how good is this? And then something happens and that person tries to sue you. It's just like, it just is what it is. We make it bad or good. We are the judgment of that. And this is why we are the meaning makers. And this is why when we become angry, we lose the scope and the ability to see something as it is, and we start to see it as we experience it. And it's usually how we've taught ourselves to deal with those particular things. So, the first person to get angry loses. Not just loses the battle, they lose themselves, they lose control, they lose responsibility. And that's really when you start to lose, because you're no longer in a position where you can consider all the little wins, right? Somebody being angry at you and being like, okay, like, they're allowed to be angry at you. So what? It's probably got nothing to do with you. I've been angry at someone before and I'm like, what a fuckwit. And then I found out like a bit of information that I didn't originally know, and I'm like, that makes sense. So all this anger was for nothing. All this anger and time and energy wasted on somebody about something that didn't actually occur that way was for nothing. And it's like, oh fuck, how often do I do this? How often do I just grab a bit of information and then react in that situation, and I hold on to this anger, I hold on to something, and then later on get a bit more information, or it's just like, actually I just don't care, because, well, chances are it doesn't matter, right? And so this is the beauty of just having this ability for ourselves to step back and see it as it is, not see it as we see it, with all our filters and all our biases and our generalizations and everything on top of it, and our emotions and our meta programs and beliefs and values and all this sort of stuff. Because all those things actually start to filter the way that we're experiencing reality. They alter our experience. And that's what we call the truth, but it's not the truth. It's our truth. And that's different to the truth. And this is why there's two things to say to this. This is why when somebody goes, I just tell it how it is. It's like, no, dickface. You tell it how you see it. That's different. You don't tell it how it is. You're not the overseeing, all-arching, unbiased, non-judgmental being of goddess and beauty, right? Because even that's judgmental. But even that circumstance, it's like, you're not that. You see it. You tell it how you see it. And the other thing is that there's always three sides to a story, right? There's your side, my side, and then the truth. Think about that. So team, on that note, I'm out. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you found this podcast beneficial and you have some little angry friends that you think might find it also beneficial and not too offensive, then please, by all means, pass it on to them. Otherwise, if you haven't already, jump on Facebook, search Mood Prep Online, join the conversation in there. And that's it. I'm out. Thank you very much for tuning in. Until tomorrow, peace and pizza. kick today in the dick, slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unlearned.